The Battle of Goliath Spring, also known as the Battle of Ain Jalut, took place in 1260 in Palestine and stands as one of the most significant military engagements in medieval history. This battle was not just a clash between two armies, but a decisive moment that shaped the course of the Middle East and the world. It pitted the Mamluks, a Muslim military caste that had recently taken control of Egypt, against the Mongol Empire, the most formidable military force of the time. The outcome of this battle marked the first major defeat of the Mongols, halting their westward expansion and preserving the Islamic world from a possible Mongol conquest. To fully appreciate the significance of the Battle of Goliath Spring, it is essential to understand the context in which it occurred. The 13th century was a period of intense upheaval and transformation in the Middle East. The Mongol Empire, founded by Genghis Khan in the early 1200s, had rapidly expanded across Asia, conquering vast territories and leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The Mongols were renowned for their military prowess, employing highly mobile cavalry units, sophisticated siege tactics, and a level of brutality that struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. By the mid-13th century, the Mongols had established dominion over much of Central Asia, Persia, and parts of Eastern Europe. Their advance westward brought them into direct conflict with the Islamic world. Meanwhile, the Mamluks, who would become the defenders of the Islamic world at Ain Jalut, were themselves a unique and formidable force. Originally, the Mamluks were slave soldiers of Turkish, Circassian, and other ethnic origins who had been bought and trained by the Ayyubid rulers of Egypt. Over time, the Mamluks gained significant power and influence within the Ayyubid Sultanate, and by 1250, they had effectively taken control of Egypt, establishing the Mamluk Sultanate. Under their leadership, Egypt became a major military and political power in the region. The Mamluks were known for their strict military discipline, horsemanship, and use of highly effective composite bows, which made them one of the most formidable fighting forces of their time. The Mongol advance towards the Middle East began in earnest in the 1250s under the leadership of Hulagu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan. Hulagu's campaign was part of the broader Mongol strategy to expand their empire into the Islamic world. He was tasked with subjugating the remaining Islamic states in the region, particularly the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad, which was still seen as a symbolic center of the Islamic world, despite its weakened state. In 1258, Hulagu's forces captured and sacked Baghdad, marking the end of the Abbasid Caliphate and dealing a devastating blow to the Muslim world. After the fall of Baghdad, Hulagu continued his advance westward, aiming to conquer the Mamluk Sultanate in Egypt and the remaining Muslim territories in the Levant. However, before he could complete his campaign, Hulagu was forced to return to Mongolia following the death of the great Khan monk in 1259. He left behind a significant portion of his army under the command of his general Kitbuka to continue the campaign in his absence. Kitbuka, a Christian of the Nayman tribe, was a capable and experienced commander who had played a key role in the Mongol conquests in the region. The Mongols, under Kitbuka's leadership, continued their advance into the Levant, capturing the city of Aleppo and threatening the remaining Muslim territories. The Mamluks, led by their Sultan Qutuz, recognized the existential threat posed by the Mongols. In response, Qutuz sought to rally the Muslim forces to confront the Mongols before they could reach Egypt. Qutuz's call to arms was bolstered by the fact that the Mongols had demanded the submission of the Mamluks, a demand that Qutuz defiantly rejected. The Mamluks understood that a decisive battle against the Mongols was inevitable if they were to protect their homeland and preserve the Islamic world. The two armies eventually met at Ain Jalut, near the Jezreel Valley in present-day northern Israel, on September 3, 1260. The battlefield, known as Goliath Spring, was strategically chosen by the Mamluks. The terrain, characterized by rolling hills and narrow passes, limited the Mongols' ability to fully exploit their superior mobility and cavalry tactics, giving the Mamluks a tactical advantage. The Mamluk army, numbering between 15,000 and 20,000 soldiers, was composed primarily of cavalry, with a core of elite Mamluk warriors. These soldiers were highly trained in horsemanship, archery, and close combat. The Mamluks also employed a strategic reserve force, which would play a crucial role in the battle. Qutuz, a seasoned military leader, took command of the army alongside his trusted general, Baibars, who would later become one of the most famous Mamluk sultans. The Mongol force under Kitbuka was similarly composed of highly skilled cavalry, numbering around 20,000 to 25,000 troops. The Mongols were confident in their ability to defeat the Mamluks, having already conquered much of the Islamic world and facing little resistance from other armies in the region. Kitbuka, however, faced the challenge of leading a campaign far from the main Mongol forces, with limited reinforcements and supplies. As the battle commenced, the Mamluks employed a combination of traditional military tactics and innovative strategies. One of the key tactics used by the Mamluks was the feigned retreat, a maneuver they had learned from their own experiences with nomadic warfare. Baibars led the Mamluk vanguard, engaging the Mongol forces in a series of skirmishes before deliberately retreating, drawing the Mongols into a narrow valley. Kitbuka, confident in the Mongols' superiority, ordered his forces to pursue the retreating Mamluks, believing that they were on the verge of victory. However, as the Mongols advanced into the valley, they were ambushed by the main Mamluk force, which had been strategically positioned to launch a counterattack. The Mongols found themselves trapped, with the narrow terrain limiting their ability to maneuver and deploy their cavalry effectively. The Mamluks, using their superior knowledge of the terrain and disciplined formations, launched a devastating assault on the Mongol forces. The Mamluk cavalry, armed with composite bows and swords, inflicted heavy casualties on the Mongols, who were unable to regroup and counter the attack. The battle raged throughout the day, with both sides suffering significant losses. However, the tide of the battle began to turn decisively in favor of the Mamluks as their strategic reserve, which had been held back, was brought into the fight. This fresh force overwhelmed the already exhausted Mongol troops. Kitbuka, realizing that the battle was lost, fought bravely but was eventually captured and executed by the Mamluks. The defeat of the Mongols at Ain Jalut was a turning point in the history of the Middle East. For the first time, the Mongols had been decisively defeated in open battle, and their seemingly unstoppable advance into the Islamic world was halted. The Mamluk victory at Ain Jalut not only secured the independence of Egypt and the Levant, but also preserved the Islamic civilization from potential annihilation by the Mongols. The significance of the Battle of Goliath Spring extends beyond its immediate military and political consequences. It marked the beginning of the Mamluks' rise as the dominant power in the Muslim world, a position they would maintain for the next 2 centuries. The Mamluk Sultanate, under leaders like Baibars, who succeeded Qutuz after his assassination later that year, would go on to become one of the most powerful and stable states in the region, known for its military prowess and cultural achievements. Furthermore, the battle demonstrated the limits of Mongol power and the importance of strategy, terrain, and leadership in determining the outcome of military engagements. The Mongols, who had relied on their superior mobility and psychological warfare to defeat their enemies, were outmaneuvered by the Mamluks, who used their knowledge of the local terrain and innovative tactics to neutralize the Mongol advantages. In the broader context of world history, the Battle of Ain Jalut was one of the key events that prevented the Mongols from extending their empire into the Mediterranean and Western Europe. Had the Mongols succeeded in conquering the Mamluk Sultanate, they might have continued their westward expansion, potentially altering the course of European and Islamic history. The legacy of the Battle of Goliath Spring continues to resonate in the Middle East and beyond. It is remembered as a symbol of resistance against a powerful and seemingly invincible invader, and as a testament to the resilience and strategic acumen of the Mamluks. The battle also holds a significant place in Islamic history, as it marked the defense of the Muslim world against a formidable threat, and it has been celebrated in various forms of literature, art, and historiography throughout the centuries. In conclusion, the Battle of Goliath Spring was a defining moment in the history of the Middle East, with far-reaching implications for the region and the world. The Mamluks' victory over the Mongols at Ain Jalut not only preserved the Islamic civilization, but also demonstrated the importance of leadership, strategy, and terrain in warfare. The battle's legacy continues to be remembered as a pivotal event that shaped the course of history and the fate of nations.